One of the most popular questions that I get is people ask me, did I set up my boards correctly? How do I set up the structure of Monday.com? In this video, I'm going to walk you through different options of how you can set up the structure of your boards within Monday. And then you can figure out what is best for your company and your specific use case. So let's jump in. Hi, my name is Tara, and I'm a certified Monday.com partner and the founder of Simple Day. My goal is to help you build powerful yet simple workflows with Monday.com. If you need help with a custom implementation, my contact details are in the description below. Let's jump into today's tutorial and make Monday the best part of your week. Before you even start building out Monday.com, you actually need to start with some planning. You need to think about how you're going to set up the boards before you actually do anything. The first thing that you need to be thinking about is, why are you using Monday.com? What are your goals in having this tool within your company? Are you using it as a CRM? Are you using it to track tasks or track projects? There's tons and tons of different use cases that I've seen people use Monday.com for. So make sure you're really clear on understanding why you're using the tool. Personally, I think it can be used in so many different ways within a company. Yes, it doesn't do everything, but it really can replace a lot of different things that you're managing in your company. So start off making sure that you're really clear about what you're using Monday.com for. Of course, over time, you'll find more and more things that you can add to it. But start with that basic understanding. Once you understand what you're using it for, then you obviously then understand what you need to put in it. For example, if you're tracking projects, then you need to put all of your information about the projects. You also need to put all the tasks associated about the projects. So on a big picture, you want to understand what you're using the tool for. But then if we go a little bit further down, we need to understand the specifics about what information we're actually tracking. And then you can start to map things out. Because once you understand, okay, we are tracking 25 projects and all of the tasks associated with it, and maybe all of the budgets and maybe all of the manpower for it, then you can start to get an idea of what information needs to be put within Monday. The next thing that you need to think about is the people that are actually going to be using Monday. You want to think about the different teams that you have, maybe the different departments, and the different people that are going to be using their tool. How complex can it be? How much will they actually be using this tool? Is it a tool that they're going to be using every single day or once in a while? Because what I've seen is people build out really, really complex setups that are amazing, but no one in their company is using them because it's not on the same level for the people that are using it. There's kind of this mismatch. So you need to think about who's using it and what information they need to see and build it for them. The next thing that you need to think about is, what do you want to get out of this tool? In addition to having great workflows and tracking projects or tasks, what kind of information? And I'm talking about KPIs and goals and dashboards here, because Monday is a tool that can track that for you, but you need to spend the time thinking about what you want to do. I definitely recommend taking time to plan out your first step of your structure. Use a tool like workflows or write it on a piece of paper, but take the time to plan so that way you know what needs to be part of the system as you're building it. And now let's jump into the different ways that you can actually build out your structure within Monday. We're going to start with the most simple way of using Monday.com. That's simply to have everything in one board and have a task board. Personally, I love having one task board. I think that most companies are just managing tasks, and a lot of things can be combined into one task board. I can't tell you how many people I see build out so many different boards and they can't find any of the tasks that they need to do. Now, obviously, your business is probably more complex than just having one task board, and you're not using Monday to just be a glorified to-do list. However, there is a lot of magic that can happen within one board. That being said, obviously, if you have different workflows, like if you are tracking budgets or finances, that wouldn't go in a task board. Or let's just say you need a calendar view of something. That's probably may not be a task. Or you have HR onboarding. That may be totally separate than a task board. But I do think that most companies can have one task board. And the simplest way is to have one board. As you can see here, I have one board, and then I have a drop-down column or a status column that will allow me to tag the information. So in this specific example, we're using different departments. So everyone's using a task board and we have different departments, and you can choose the department for the task. So I simply need to assign the department to the task. Then if I want, I can filter. But what I'm doing is I have all my tasks in one place, and I have either a dropdown or a status column to show me which task this department is associated with. So this is the simplest way to use Monday.com. Obviously, you definitely should add automations and workflows and all of that. But on a simple structural level, everything is one board. All of your tasks are in one place, and you categorize it based on status or dropdown. The next way that you can set up your structure in a pretty simple way is by having one board that tracks your projects and your tasks. So what I can do here is on an item level, I can track my projects. So here I have project number 1, and then all of my sub items would be the different tasks that I need associated with that project. So here I can have task number 1, and task number 2. So again, we're on one board. We're keeping it really, really simple. We have the item is the project, and then the sub item is the task. The reason that this is so helpful is because, again, you have everything in this one board and people can easily understand what they need to do and the task associated with each project. You also can track progress on a project in one place. So when we think about structure, one structure is to have one task board where you have your projects and your tasks in one place. This leads me to the next type of structure that I want to talk about: high level, low level structure. What that means is that on a high level, you can see your projects, and on a low level, you can see your tasks. Let's jump over to a different workspace. And you can see here, these are just different examples, but here you can see that I have my high level and my low level boards. So this is my high level board and it's attached to my low level boards. Okay, so what that means, high level is my projects, low level is the actual tasks that need to be done. You can have a one-to-one, so you can have a high level board with one low level board. So you would see all of your projects in one place and all of your tasks in another place. You also can have multiple low-level boards that connect to your high-level board. Now you need to realize that depending on your plan, you may run into limits because there's certain limits based on your plan of how many boards can connect. But if we're looking big picture, talking about the structure here, we have one high-level board of all of our projects and then a low-level board of all of our tasks, making it a little more complex than the two other options, but it also gives you more flexibility because in this model, the manager can look high level and they can easily see all of the projects. And then maybe we have like high level goals, but they don't need to see all the tasks. Then the people actually working on the tasks, they're working in the task board. This leads me to the next structure that I want to share with you. This is actually an enterprise level structure and it's called Portfolio. It's a newer feature from Monday.com. And what it is that you have the same high level board and you have multiple low level boards. Now, since you're on enterprise, I don't even want to say the number because they're constantly changing. It started out with 100, then it went to 200. I don't even know what number it's at now, but I know that the plan is to get to 1,000 boards. What that means is that you can connect one high level board to 1,000 boards. Okay. In the last structure that we just saw, depending on your plan, but you're limited either 1 to 20 on the pro plan or 1 to 60 on the enterprise plan. Please note that these numbers may change because they often do change, but at the time of this recording, those are the numbers. So in this structure, I recommend this structure for people that have larger projects and they need a full board for another project. Most times people think that every client or every project is a full board. I actually don't think that's the case. And I think one of the first 3 options is a better setup. I don't like having so many boards because then people don't know where the tasks are that they need to do every single day. When you have larger projects, for example, I've worked with companies that are buying houses. So they're not doing hundreds of projects a year. They're doing a couple. They're selling a couple of houses a year, but there's a lot of steps. Or I worked with a company that was working they were doing some contracting for the government, and these contracts were like 2 or 3 years of a project. So they're really long projects and they're really complex. In that case, I would recommend this structure of the portfolio board. And here you can see this portfolio board shows you all of your projects. Okay, I know here I only have one, but you could see all of your projects, the status of it, how the progress and everything that you need. And then you can have a low-level board with all of your tasks of the progress of that project, but it's low level because it's showing you all the tasks. Added on top of this, you can have resource management and you can have dashboards. So there's a lot to be built out within the structure, but I don't think it's for everyone. And I want to make that very clear because a lot of times, I would say 95% of the new clients that I meet with, they have a board for every single client or every single project. And I don't always think that that is the right way to go because, as I said, you can't find the actual tasks that you need to work on today. There's so many boards that people get lost. Yes, you can go to My Work and check that out. It may be a feature you like. I do recommend checking out another video that I did about My Work and some alternatives to My Work because sometimes My Work doesn't fulfill what people need. But in summary, there's a lot of different ways that you can set up your structure within Monday. You need to think about what's going to work for your users, what's going to work for the people on top. If it's an executive team, it's a leadership team, whoever it is, to see their information. And you need to think about how people are going to see the information that they need to do every day. The different types of ways that you can organize your board, just to review, is that you can have one task board with everything on it. Then you can have one task board with sub-items. So your item level is your project and your sub-items are the tasks. Then you can have a high level, low level board. High level is your projects and low level is your tasks. And finally, you can have the portfolio board, where portfolio is all of your projects. And then you have different boards for every single project that you're working on. I definitely recommend understanding these different structures that you can use within Monday before you start using the tool. So that way you can figure out what the best structure is going to be for you. And make sure to keep in mind the different limitations that you have, because those are really important because it may determine which structure you need to use. Now, if you're thinking that this portfolio feature is for you, join me for the next video and you can learn all about portfolio as I take a deep dive into this feature. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and remember to subscribe to receive tips and tricks on how to use Monday.com. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you soon.